can't trust the government to be sure that it's not this stinking industry. These health effects that are happening worldwide because governments aren't doing their job. If they did their job, this industry would be gone.
It's going to be difficult to live here once there's a full functioning gas field. You know, there's going to be 750 metres apart, pipes and compressor stations and ponds, and it just changes the landscape so much.
The gas that sits underneath us is not natural gas. The gas that sits underneath us is unconventional coal seam gas. It requires a different process.
The way the process works, that a company will make first a test bore and they'll drill down and see what's there and get an idea of how far down the coal seam goes. Then they'll come in and they'll do a pre-production well, and they'll have a flare venting into the atmosphere with a flame, draw up water from the coal seams. In certain cases, they will hydraulically stimulate or frack the coal seam, which means an injection of water and chemicals and drilling muds and diesel and all the stuff that goes with a drilling rig, and shatter the coal seams. They will then draw the water and the gas, the methane gas, up out of that, separate the water, which then becomes so-called produced water.
Before this industry came here, before we got gas wells, there was no health impacts, and then these started to come once the wells had been drilled.
Little Jace wouldn't be having seizures, he wouldn't be going to see specialists, and Luke is now, he's the youngest, is now just recently, and we don't know whether he's just mimicking Jace, but you know, Jace will be walking along and his leg stops working. Sorry. There are times when a gun looks good, and I'm not a violent person, but I tell you, those politicians, they've got so much to answer for.
They have no exact answers at this stage. With little Noah, we questioned that one severely because he hemorrhaged in the brain when he was 8 days old, and then ended up with a secondary hydrocephalus, being fluid on the brain, and he keeps crying, holding his head, screaming, so we know it's a headache. I've queried it with the neurosurgeons constantly and the paediatricians down in Brisbane at the Mater Children's, and they've told us, after reviewing him, doing more scans of the head and tests behind the eyes to see if there's fluid, it is definitely not medical, it is environmental with Noah.
We've just been treated poorly. It's just appalling the way they treat landholders.
The reason that we fought them right from the word go was that they lied. They told us that they wanted one gas well as an exploration well. When they came back, they said, well, you know, maybe not 1, 5.
QGC are the worst of the worst. They've really got a bad reputation for just complete and utter arrogance and deliberate environmental damage.
These companies are trespassing on our world, on our nation. Our nation's going to be worth nothing without water, or at least without clean water.
There's so many farms that rely on groundwater, and there's 23 regional towns that rely on groundwater. Now, if that water's polluted, what have we got? We got the towns are dry. You know, in 10, 15, 20 years, who knows? These towns may not have access to water anymore.
We have the right to say no. Our case is we've said no and everyone else has said yes around us, so we're stuffed. Because if these guys never said yes, then we wouldn't need to be afraid of the industry poisoning us, because there would have been no wells.
There's got to be a moratorium placed on the industry until they do some proper research, baseline assessments. This industry should never have been allowed to go ahead. You know, what happened to the precautionary principle? It's been thrown out the window. You know, it's like, I'll get as much as you can in before the rest of Australia wakes up to what we're doing.
Where do you go? There is nowhere to go for us. We're stuck here, and we've got to try to deal with what we have here.
There'll be nearly probably 5,000 gas wells in Queensland now, where New South Wales has a chance to, you know, to stop it, to not see it expand that much.
The Northern Rivers needs to lock up not just itself, not just your own paddock, not just your own property, not just your own neighbourhood, but your region.
Every now and then they'll take a particular landowner farmer who's usually a bit of an opinion leader in the area. They'll give him a really good deal. The price for that is that then he's got to go and be the poster boy. He's got to go out and say what wonderful people these companies are to work with. They give you a really good deal. If you just follow me and you'll get a good deal. Well, nobody else gets a good deal. Nobody.
It's really an inch by inch, farmer by farmer stealth attack that's going on here. And there are many farmers in this area who are marginal. They're subsistence farmers. Perhaps they don't have a son or daughter who wants to take on the farm. They're looking at their retirement and looking at their income. It's very attractive to accept a deal from a mining company that comes in and says, look, we come from the land, we appreciate this, we wouldn't do anything to wreck your land. So, you know, here's $10,000 we're willing to give you. That's very attractive. These people are then asked to sign a confidentiality agreement. This technique of mining allows someone to drill on one farmer's land and to go horizontally 2 kilometres and affect the water table and the aquifers under numerous other farmers' lands. This needs to have a collective and a community response.
Lock the roads movement. Gas field free roads for the Northern Rivers. Gas field free roads everywhere, where a survey is done of all the citizens in the road. And those citizens, by majority generally, say we are not going to allow the area along this road to become a gas field.
People on these roads throughout the Lismore area have said no, they don't want coal seam gas in their communities. It's time for everyone, including city people, to say no, we don't want it here.
Governments, state and federal, are looking at how to regulate it, and that's that. If you regulate something, it means it goes ahead. We want the licences revoked.
No CSG! 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 No CSG!
It's all about having a conversation with as many people as possible so that everybody educates himself and becomes engaged in this.
People in the city have got to see that this is about them as well. This is not just about farmers. It's not just about rural people. It's about all Australians. What sort of Australia do we want?
When you wake up in the morning and you eat your Wheat Bix, where's it coming from? It's coming from these paddocks out here. You know, when you sit down and eat your steak tonight, where's it come from? It's not the Woolies car park, it's out here.
I pray every night that no one in the city ever has to go through what we're going through. There is no one to help us. We are literally on our own out here trying to fight, and we're not just fighting the gas, we are fighting for our life out here.
When are we as a nation allowing multinational foreign-owned companies to trash ordinary Australians? And that's what this industry's doing. It's, you know, we're being trashed out here.
You lock up your region, they will need the army to get through Australians when they lock arms and say you're not coming in here. Locking your arms, locking your community is what will win this war, and that's what it is. This is the greatest war that Australia's ever faced, because this is a real war for our future.